Hello. 1 second. There we go. Welcome. Hello. So I was going to try having my phone rotated sideways so you could see me long ways, but it turns out I can't do that with my phone. So we're gonna have it up and down again. I tried. Welcome to our second plant-based cooking class. If you're watching live, welcome. If you're watching later on, welcome as well. We'll get started here in just a moment. I'm gonna attempt to put our recipes in comments below this video so you can see the recipes if you didn't already get those in the email I sent out. So bear with me while I attempt. And we'll give everyone just a moment to get onto the video. Hello. I see a few of you on here. I am trying to put our recipes right now onto the page, onto the comments, so that you can follow along if you didn't already get the recipe. So there is the first one, should be on the comments within this video. There, I see it, great. And then here is the second. There we go. So both videos or both recipes are now in the comments below. You should be able to see those, follow along if you don't already have the recipe. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Are we ready? There's only 2 people watching right now, so I feel like I should wait, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and get started anyways. You can catch up whenever you log on or watch this later. So the first recipe that we're going to make right now is our vegan Caesar salad. Also, please feel free to comment, ask questions in the comments below. I will answer as many questions as I can, and just feel free to say hi if you like. So we're gonna get started. First recipe, vegan Caesar salad. Here we go. So our first, let me grab my recipes, I guess. Our first direction, we're gonna start with the dressing first. So you'll need a blender for this one. If you don't have a high-speed blender at home, like a Vitamix, it should work in a regular blender as well. But the high-speed ones do work the best. So we're gonna go ahead and get going with that. The first ingredient that we have is our soaked cashews. So I already went ahead and soaked the cashews for an hour in hot water, and I rinsed and drained them. This is what they look like right now. They are slightly softer. I do use cashew pieces rather than whole cashews. I just find it easier to use the cashew pieces. They blend up quicker, I find. So we're gonna add those first to our blender, and I do have to blend back here since my power cord is back behind me. All right, so we've got our cashews into the blender. Next, what we're going to add is a cup of cold water. You can use any type of water you want, but I do start with cold at least because blending so much makes the dressing really warm. So try to give it a head start in keeping it cold. So here we go with 1 cup of water. I already measured out for us. Our next ingredient is going to be the lemon juice. So I've already measured out our lemon juice as well. And we have 3 tablespoons of that. This is fresh lemon juice. I squeezed the fresh lemon juice. Okay. And then our next ingredient is the raw pumpkin seeds. This is what they look like. Raw pumpkin seeds. I don't know if you can see those very well, but they're kind of a green color. So 1 tablespoon of those. And next we're gonna do, I'm gonna actually do the capers next. So if you're not familiar with capers, they are in, usually in a jar, like a glass jar, and that's what they look like for you. They are usually like near olives if you're in the store. I got these at Trader Joe's. They're kind of in the olive area. So just a small amount of those are gonna go into our blender. Next, we're going to do then all of the seasonings together. So we've got black pepper, garlic, and salt. So I've got those right here, blend it all up or combined for us to make it a little easier. Add all of those into our blender. So once we've got everything in there, lid on. So this does take a couple minutes to blend all the way. So I don't know, it might be a little bit loud in the video, but last time people said it wasn't loud. So it will take a couple minutes to blend. So I'll at least get it started for us, okay? So all the way onto high power is where we want to go. So that is going to take a couple minutes on high. We don't need to stand here and blend for 2 minutes on high together. So you just want to get it to where it's a consistency that's not gritty anymore. You want to make it nice and smooth. That's why we soak the cashews ahead of time. Oh, hi Susan. We soak the cashews ahead of time because it blends a lot easier. The raw cashews don't blend as smooth as quickly, so we soak ahead of time in the water. I'm wondering, just side note, troubleshooting, I'm wondering if some people live are having a hard time getting on, if there's a connectivity issue. So jump in when you can. We are working on the vegan Caesar salad dressing right now in the blender, okay? So I've already got a recipe of our dressing made up and it's in the fridge. So once your dressing is blended all the way and nice and smooth, put it into an airtight container, put it in the fridge for a couple hours. You'll notice when you're done blending, it is warm because we blended it on high for a while. And also it's a little bit watery. When you put it in the fridge, it of course cools down and it will also thicken a bit so it's more like a Caesar salad dressing. So we're gonna go ahead, put this one aside. I have our already made and chilled dressing in the fridge ready to go. So the next part we're going to work on is the cashew Parmesan cheese. So that one is really quick. You'll need a food processor for this one. You probably could use a blender if you clean it out. You probably could use a blender. I haven't tried that myself. I prefer the food processor, okay? So we're gonna go ahead with that one. Into our food processor, we're going to put a cup of the raw cashews. Now these are not soaked, so these are dry. Just the pieces of the cashews. Again, I use pieces rather than whole because it blends up quicker when we use pieces. So add those to our food processor. And then the other ingredients that we add, we have powdered garlic powder, salt, and then nutritional yeast. That is all in here. I already measured it out for us. Add those to our food processor. And that is everything. So we're going to pulse this just for a few moments. We want to get it to kind of a really fine, chopped up, minced type of texture. So bear with me again, it might be a little loud, okay? And that was it. It's already blended. So this is what our consistency is. See if I can show you this. So it's kind of a finely chopped up sort of consistency, and it sort of shakes out like a Parmesan cheese would, okay? So we've got that ready to go. And then the final component of this, of course, is our lettuce. Now, in the recipe, it does say to have 6 heads of lettuce, so like the small heads of lettuce, okay? We don't need 6 heads of lettuce today. I'm just gonna do 3. And you probably, when you make your Caesar salad, you probably won't use all the dressing nor all of the Parmesan cheese. That's fine. Don't feel like you need to use all of those ingredients for the salad. You likely will have some left over, which is in the notes of the recipe. So I'm gonna go ahead, move these out of the way, chop up our lettuce. So I washed these already, and I like to just do them kind of along, just chop down the head of lettuce. There we go. And this goes into our bowl. Great. And the next one here, next head of lettuce. And we'll do just 1 more. Perfect. Okay, so once we have our lettuce chopped up, we've made all 3 components of this salad. So I'm going to set this aside, and I'll dress it right now. I may as well. I'll add the dressing right now to the salad, and then we'll add the cheese later when we serve our full meal, okay? So our dressing that we made is here in the blender. It needs to go in the fridge still, so I have an already made salad dressing here. And you can see that it is somewhat of a thicker texture, okay? Thicker consistency. And that's what we're looking for. It'll coat the lettuce better. So we're going to add all of this. Maybe. What about that? We're going to add some of that into our salad. Mix it around. So you do want to try to get all of the leaves coated if you can. You don't want it completely sopping wet and mushy, of course. Just a light sort of dress on all the salad. So if you're using the 6 heads of lettuce, you probably won't have too much of the dressing left over, but you will have likely some of the dressing left over. Okay, so we've got this prepared. This is what it looks like. Okay. We're gonna set this one aside, and we'll come back to it later when we serve our full meal. Okay, so next we're going to move on to our burgers. First, we do need to use our food processor again, so I'm gonna transfer this into a separate bowl. So that we can just use our food processor again. Okay, I'm not even gonna really bother to clean it out because most of the same ingredients are in the burgers anyways. So, just to save us some time. Looks delicious, thank you. All right, so we've got this on the side ready for the salad. Next, moving on to the burgers. So, I've got all of our ingredients ready here. The first thing you'll want to do, of course, is preheat your oven to 375. Get that one going. Also, you want to get a baking sheet out, line it with your parchment paper. That's what I have here, okay? Then next in our recipe, so I'm gonna kind of move you in through my kitchen so we can do this part together. I've prepared all of our ingredients ahead of time except for the spinach. So we're gonna do that one together. So come with me over here. And you should be able to see, hopefully. All right, so this part shouldn't take more than just a few minutes. The recipe does say chopped spinach, but it really doesn't matter that much if the spinach is already chopped or not, because everything is going to go in the food processor and it'll get chopped up there. So it doesn't really matter. I just have leaves of spinach here. So I'm gonna go ahead and add our 2 cups of spinach into our saute pan. Use a non-stick saute pan so you don't have to use oil, okay? If you find that the spinach is sticking to the bottom, sprinkle in a little bit of water, just a tiny bit. And if that should keep things from sticking. Also, you wanna make sure to keep moving things around a bit. You can use a little bit of oil if you want, but it is not totally necessary. So this should just be really quick with the spinach, but I just kind of wanted to show you how I do this part just in case you weren't familiar with how to wilt the spinach. So I have the heat on pretty high on my pan just to make this go a little bit quicker. But if you had yours on a little bit lower of heat, probably the spinach won't stick as much on a lower heat. Or if you're using a really good non-stick pan like this one, then you won't have as much of an issue either. If you're interested, this pan is Green Pan, that's the brand. Those are the ones I really, really like. They're really great non-stick. I think you can buy them at Target or online. So I think you can see into the pan just a little bit, and almost all of the spinach is already wilted. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the heat off. Really, it just takes a moment to get it down to where we want it. So this is what our spinach looks like when we have it all wilted. Okay, so this was 2 cups. It shrinks down obviously quite a lot. So we're going to leave this one over here just to cool off a little bit while we put the rest of our ingredients into our food processor. So come back over here with me. Oh, get you down lower. Okay, so all of our ingredients here, we're using our food processor again. So everything except for the whole wheat breadcrumbs, thank you. The whole wheat breadcrumbs are gonna go into our food processor. So first we're gonna do our garbanzo beans. So I like to rinse these out and drain out the water. I don't just dump the cans straight into the food processor. I do like to rinse them off first. You can use a colander. What I usually do is just pour water into the can and shake it with the lid on and drain it out with the lid, whatever you like to do. But I do recommend draining them, rinsing them, to get rid of a little bit of the salt, since beans tend to be a little bit loaded with sodium. Okay, so garbanzo beans going in. Next, we've got pinto beans. Again, same story for these. I already rinsed and drained these ones. So let's add those. Oops, lost a few. Okay. Next ingredient we're gonna do is our sun-dried tomatoes. So again, if you're not familiar with these either, usually these are found in the same area as olives, capers. They could be with like the tomato sauce type of products. So usually they are in a jar, and they are usually also in like an oil type of base. So I try not to get too much of the oil. There's a little bit still in there. I try not to get too much of the oil. I'll pick them out with a fork rather than just pour it out. You want the tomatoes more than the oil that they're sitting in. So they are in like a shelf stable aisle to find them in the store. I got these from Trader Joe's, in case you're wondering. We'll add those guys in. Next, we're going to do, I have all of our seasonings all in one. So the nutritional yeast, the basil, the oregano, the fennel, the garlic, and the salt, okay? Oh, and I just realized we forgot to make our flax egg. So really quickly, I'm going to add that together. I forgot that ingredient. So how we make a flax egg, this is something that I use for a lot of recipes, some with cooking, a lot with baking. So what you do to make a flax egg, we have 1 tablespoon of the ground flax seed. So you want it to be ground. You don't want it to be just the whole flax seeds. 1 tablespoon of those. And then you stir it around with 3 tablespoons of water. And you do let it sit for a couple minutes, and it will kind of turn into sort of a gel consistency, kind of like an egg white, or if you were to beat up an egg, sort of that gooey consistency, I guess, for lack of a better word. So we're gonna give that just a moment to sort of gel. Get this out of our way. I'm gonna grab our spinach, and we can put the spinach into the food processor. So again, 2 cups of spinach turned into this teeny tiny amount when we sauteed it down, or wilted it, I guess, is what we really were doing. So add that right on in to the food processor, carefully. And I do like to wait for it to cool off just for a few minutes. I don't like sticking hot stuff in there. Okay. And let's see how our flax egg is starting to gel a little bit. Usually I like to give it just an extra moment. That's looking pretty good. It will continue to gel up a little bit as we put it into the recipe or into the with the other ingredients. So it's slightly thicker. You can see a little bit. And there we go. It has thickened slightly. Okay. So if we were to let it sit for 10 minutes, it would be much more like a gel consistency. But I'm going to go ahead and put this in. So the only thing left to do now is to blend everything. So again, this does not take very long to blend this. I'm just going to give it a few pulses to get everything combined. And this, let me grab my spoon. There we go. This is kind of the consistency that we are looking for. It doesn't look great right now, but it's sort of it's not all the way to paste. You can see some of the texture is still left in it. We basically want to chop up all of the beans and the spinach, the larger pieces of spinach, and definitely the sun-dried tomatoes. So you don't want any large chunks of those left over. We want it into this somewhat, not all the way to paste, but broken down into small pieces. We're going to transfer that to our bowl. Grab my spatula. We'll transfer this to our bowl. Not very delicately, but we're transferring it to our bowl. There we go. Okay. Get the blade out. We don't want to eat that. Okay. Then we will add our cup of breadcrumbs. So in the recipe, you'll notice that it does say whole wheat breadcrumbs. Those do exist. You can buy them from a store. This particular brand I got from Sprouts. It is the Sprouts brand. I found them in I believe they're in the baking aisle. So that's generally where you would probably find them in other stores, but in Sprouts here in Ventura, these are in the baking aisle. Okay, they're in a bag and they are whole wheat breadcrumbs. So add all of those in and we're going to stir these in. Make sure that all of the breadcrumbs are incorporated. And if you do have a hard time with using the spoon, you can use your hands to mix. I'm trying to avoid that if I can, if possible. If fresh herbs are used, should measurements be adjusted? Yes, I do believe that if you use fresh herbs like fresh basil, fresh oregano, I do believe that the amounts are different. I want to say, this may be something that you'd have to look up, but I want to say for every teaspoon of dried, it's a tablespoon of fresh, but I could definitely be wrong about that. So yes, if you are using fresh herbs, it will be a different amount. Hopefully that helps. I usually use dry just because it's easier. All right, so I'm gonna start using my hands for this just to get everything incorporated. And I've got gloves, so I hopefully don't have to wash my hands as many times. Oops, I'm making a mess. All right, so all of my breadcrumbs are pretty well incorporated now. I'll show you the consistency. So we just started growing. Oh, good, yeah. Oh my goodness, I'm making a mess. So this is kind of our consistency. Easy to mold, my goodness. Easy to mold, okay. I am going to now grab my prepared baking tray. I have some fresh herbs in our yard, but not oregano or basil or fennel. So I have sage and catnip, which don't really go in this recipe. All right, so for this, I actually like to use a 1/3 cup measuring cup, a 1/3 measuring cup to get the portions out, because it does seem to make just the right amount, the right size type of burgers. So we have our 1/3 cup, and I'll show you how I like to form these. So the recipe says the diameter is about 4 inches across and about a 1/2 inch thick. Those are just, you don't have to be exact. I obviously don't measure my the sizes of the burgers that I'm making, but that is kind of what we are looking for. Trying to get it as even as you can around so that it will bake evenly. There you go. So this recipe does make 9 if you're using 1/3 cup portions. And I do already have some made for us so that we don't have to sit here and wait for these to bake, because it does take 30 minutes for them to bake. I'll make one more so you can see one more time. So again, just the 1/3 cup measuring scoop. Using the hands, you don't have to use gloves, you can use your bare hands for this. I just didn't want to have to wash my hands on the video. And try to make them round and even. So again, that's kind of what we're going for. Okay, about that big around. Make 9 of these, put them on your parchment paper on the baking sheet, and then you're going to bake for 15 minutes. When the 15 minutes are up, flip all of them over, bake for another 15 minutes to get both sides even. They shouldn't be getting like really, really dark. We want them to dry out a bit and crisp up, but they shouldn't be getting like burned or dark. I did try also cooking these in a saute pan. You can cook them in a pan like with some oil, but number one, we don't want to be cooking with a whole bunch of oil anyways. It is healthier to bake these, but also I find that the texture is better in the oven because they dry out a bit more. Obviously beans have a lot of moisture in them. It's very kind of a sticky consistency, I guess you would say. So in the oven, it helps them dry out and have a nicer consistency, a nice texture throughout. If you're doing them in a pan, you're just cooking the outsides mostly. So in the oven is my preference. So that's why I have on the recipe to do the baking in the oven. I'm going to get this out of our way. Again, this should make about 9 burgers, but we don't need to take time watching me make 9 burgers. So the last thing to do is now assemble everything. So when the burgers are baked, this is what they will look like. Okay? This is what the burgers look like. Slightly golden on the surfaces. Okay? They hold up well. They are not soggy. They stay together. They don't crumble a lot. Okay? So they have a good consistency. And let's assemble our meal. So I've got my bun already toasted up for us. You can do whatever you like. There's no specific ingredients that must go on the burger, whatever you want to do, okay? So you can do 1 or 2 burger patties, up to you. Some nice lettuce I always like to have on a burger. You can do mayonnaise or the vegan mayonnaise if you like. You could probably even do some of the Caesar salad dressing that you have left over, or you can do mustard, ketchup, whatever you like. We'll do mustard just because it's easy. Ooh. So there is that portion of our, let me see. There you go. Now you can see the birds. That portion of our meal. And the final portion of our meal was our salad that we prepared. Another tip I want to say about this salad, I wouldn't recommend dressing it way in advance. I would say only dress as much as you're going to serve at that time, and do it just before serving. Otherwise, of course, like any salad, the lettuce will get a little bit soggy over time from the dressing on it. So dress it right before you're going to serve it, and leftovers will not have quite the same crunchy consistency as they do now. Burger salad, and then this again is our Parmesan crumbles. Okay, I don't know if you can see the size of crumbles on there. There you go. And give it a little sprinkle over top. And now we're ready to eat. So there you go. I don't see any more questions in the comment section, so if you do, pop them up really quick and I can answer them. Otherwise, I will say thank you so much for watching live or watching the recorded version later. I hope that you learned something. I hope that all of our videos that we're doing for you are helpful, helping you stay healthy at home. We hope to see you in our offices soon. Thank you, Susan. That looks amazing. We hope to see you in the office and in the fitness center soon. We do have classes planned for the rest of the month online. This cooking class I will be doing again in 2 weeks from today. And I believe we're going to be doing breakfast foods at that time. So I do plan to make my favorite waffles and one other recipe. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad some people are watching. I was worried. So in 2 weeks from today, on Wednesday at 11 a.m., we'll do another cooking class, breakfast themed. And every Monday, we are having the gentle yoga classes with Heidi in the evening at 5:30. Next Wednesday next Wednesday at 9 a.m., I will be leading a beginner full body workout. So I would love to have you join me for that. I'll be sending out a reminder email about that next week as well. If there's no other questions, thank you again, and I will see you next week.